Can we have a discussion tonight for 1 hour without you mentioning Joe Biden? And the reason I say that is because Joe Biden is not the president of the United States. And the quagmire that you so clearly articulated, it's because of Donald Trump. Let's not forget that. And the blame lies on the plate of the president of the United States. And the fact we're not able to get out of this quagmire is all his fault.
In today's video, Bakari Sellers completely tears apart Carlos Sanz on CNN Tonight. We've heard countless announcements claiming that a deal was close, peace was just around the corner, and major breakthroughs were about to happen. Yet months later, the conflict continues to create uncertainty, energy prices remain under pressure, and even the most important details of a possible agreement are being challenged by both sides. So let's take a closer look and watch how Bakari Sellers shuts down Carlos Sanz on CNN Tonight.
Well, look, I mean, you're referring to what Scott Bessent said. That seems highly speculative, in part because we're not even at a point where we're in a place where we can talk about the frozen funds. Iran doesn't have access to those funds now, and it's not getting them to the table. So siphoning money out of the frozen funds, I'm not sure how that changes their behavior right now. We still don't have a deal. They still have the nuclear material in their possession. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, and the bombing hasn't worked. The cajoling hasn't worked. Withholding money hasn't worked. None of it has worked.
I don't think we need to try to fool the American public. Iran was further away from a nuclear weapon under Barack Obama than they are today.
That's not
fact. True. It's a fact.
It is actually true.
It literally is a fact.
You're saying
just
so
factually,
a nuclear weapon at this very moment?
Yes, absolutely.
And actually, the bombing.
So there's a good reason
the bombing that you're referring to does not damage their nuclear program or their uranium, because, as we all know, their uranium is so entrenched that you cannot actually get to it from the air.
I don't think they can get to it.
And so what you were saying is just not quite accurate. And the other point is that the American public has gone through a great deal of pain. We've gone through the rise in gas prices, the rise in fertilizer costs, the closing of. Can we have a discussion tonight for 1 hour without you mentioning Joe Biden? And the reason I say that is because Joe Biden is not the president of the United States. And the quagmire that you so clearly articulated, it's because of Donald Trump. Let's not forget that. And the blame lies on the plate of the president of the United States. And the fact we're not able to get out of this quagmire is all his fault. And so what I'm simply saying is that Iran has run circles around the president of the United States. We've been here before. Just 3 weeks ago, my friend Scott Jennings was talking about the fact that we were on the brink of an agreement and we were going to get everything we wanted. And you know what? That wasn't true.
We will get everything we want because President Trump is a strong president. I blame every president that came before him that didn't stop this program.
My kids are so excited every Christmas, and they get everything they want because Santa brings it.
Let me play what President Trump said about the issue of the enriched uranium as we've been discussing. Listen.
Have you actually secured an agreement on the discussions about the nuclear material and the nuclear negotiations?
Yes, conceptually on that, and nobody's getting close to it because it's buried under a mountain.
So I think this begs the question: Are you comfortable, Scott, with a concept of a plan for the enriched uranium that Iran has in its possession?
Facilities can be damaged. Equipment can be replaced. But scientists don't suddenly lose what they know. That's why most successful efforts to stop nuclear programs have relied on inspections, monitoring, and diplomatic agreements rather than military force alone. And that's why the comparison to the Obama-era nuclear deal matters. Critics opposed parts of the JCPOA, but intelligence agencies in the US and allied countries generally agreed that it placed major limits on enrichment and created monitoring systems that gave the international community a clearer view of Iran's program. Today, many experts admit that visibility is far lower than it was before. There's also an economic side that Washington often overlooks. Every disruption in the Persian Gulf sends shockwaves through energy markets. The Strait of Hormuz handles a large share of global oil shipments, and even the threat of instability can push transportation and fuel costs higher around the world.
I mean, the truth is, I don't know, because there's so much going on behind the scenes here that is opaque to everybody sitting out here. It's hard for me to be definitive in a debating posture. I've been very optimistic, as Bakari pointed out, because they've been optimistic. They've been optimistic for, a number of weeks. Today's announcement seemed a little different to me. It felt like a little more immediate than the previous, pronouncements that something might be on the brink. But again, I don't know if that's true or not. This can only end, in my opinion, with him telling the American people definitively, I went in to stop them from ever being able to get a nuclear weapon, and that's how it ends. That's the only way it can end.
Right. I agree with that.
But I also think that we have to internalize that even if they do sign a piece of paper, what's a piece of paper with an Iranian signature worth? Nothing. I mean, so I think an agreement with them is useless absent this. Constant monitoring, being subdued militarily, being subdued economically, and being under constant surveillance from the partners in the region.
That sounds like the JCPOA.
And so that is, well, no, wait, I think the president
That's literally what it is.
The missing part is the Gulf allies coming to the table to keep Iran in check. That's new, and that is a good thing.
I do think aspects of it are, to Bakari's point, what the JCPOA was trying to accomplish. I think you do have to give the other part of it, which is there is a sort of military option that Trump has put on the table that was not there before.
Yeah.
So that's real. But on the rest of the allies in the region, I mean, the biggest question is often, is Israel on board? We're
right.
close partner. We went into this war with them. Here's what we know about that, according to CNN. Israel was not aware of any impending agreement with Iran, a source told CNN, or any approval to an agreement, which appears to contradict Trump's claim on Truth Social. Trump had claimed that a whole list of countries, Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, you name it, they're all on board here. Haven't really heard from any of them, including Israel.
And that's right. And they made clear that they're also not a party to this MOU, which signaling that this is not their thing, showing some distance between them and Trump. And I thought that was interesting because the president did try to make it seem like they were on board somehow, but then yet they're still showing some distance. On the president, really, on whether we will hear something definitive from the president about, any sort of agreement, what's in it, et cetera. He was definitive back in the day when he did talk about obliterating the nuclear program. And that's a pretty definitive statement that was not true at the end of the day. And so I do think that all of these announcements, one by one, when you look at that totality of them, the American people just don't trust him anymore. I also do think that the Republican Party generally thought that this would be over within a few weeks. That's what Donald Trump said. That's what he promised them. When I mentioned this could go on till September, I don't know how many Republicans were, that's insane. And now here we are. We are in June. This is not going to be over anytime soon. And you're heading into the midterm elections where there's no relief for the American people. And this will only hurt the Republican Party.
History shows that arms control deals work best when inspectors have access, monitoring is constant, and there are clear consequences for violations. A signed agreement alone doesn't remove a nuclear threat. That's why inspectors and intelligence agencies have always played such an important role in these negotiations. Another issue is the gap between public promises and reality. If the goal was to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, people naturally want proof that its capabilities have actually been reduced. Military strikes can damage facilities, but experts have long argued that knowledge, expertise, and stored materials are much harder to eliminate. That's why many analysts believe a lasting solution requires both diplomacy and verification, not military action alone. The alliance question matters as well. Major agreements are strongest when key partners are fully aligned. If countries most affected by the outcome seem uncertain or left out of talks, it raises doubts about how long any deal will last. The Middle East has seen many agreements that looked promising at first, but struggled because regional partners weren't fully committed.
I think the Israel piece is interesting because their interest in this is, they have to live in the neighborhood and they have to live with Hezbollah firing rockets into northern Israel. So they have different equities in this. And so, yes, they've been a good partner here to militarily subdue Iran, but they can't really sign on to an agreement that shackles themselves from being able to defend themselves from these terror proxies. And so I'm not surprised to see them keeping a little distance from this. They simply cannot enter into a deal that would ever prevent them from defending their own homeland.
Iran has said that is going to be, that is one of their red lines.
I mean, remember,
is that the conflict has to end, not just as it relates to Iran, but also as it relates to Hezbollah.
Remember, what's striking to me here is what we're not talking about, which are the objectives that President Trump actually laid out when he launched this war at the end of February. We were talking about one of the objectives, which is to end the nuclear program, which is still very much in play and on the table. But he talked about regime change, about replacing the Iranian regime. He talked about cutting off Iranian support for terrorist proxies like Hezbollah. That's off the table. He talked about ending the Iranian missile program. That's off the table. They still have most of their missiles. They were just firing them in the last few days. So what we're seeing is these incredibly shrinking war objectives, where most of the things that Trump said he was going to accomplish, they're not even in play anymore. And the question is, can he even achieve more on the nuclear side than President Obama achieved through negotiations? And it's not clear yet whether that will happen.
And nothing happens in a vacuum. And I think that while we're talking about the conflict, and I actually agree with Scott when it comes to the role that Israel plays and Israel having a right to defend herself, we still have Americans who are here who are paying higher gas prices. We still have Americans who are here. I mean, we're talking to farmers in Iowa, which is why Democrats are giddy about races in Iowa right now because of the cost just to have soybeans, because fertilizer is so high. I mean, the American public is paying a price for what we're doing in Iran right now, and the American public's not dumb. I mean, they recognize this and they see the correlation. They may not understand how we get out of it, but they don't understand why we're there, but they understand the pain that they're paying.
I disagree. I think Americans know the reason that we're there. The fact that President Trump is the first U.S. president to say no nuclear weapon and we're going to take away your ability to attack the United States, he's protecting us. They say death to America every day. So what I think is this is a big deal. What President Trump has done is he's protecting the U.S. people. And the number one responsibility for a U.S. president is to protect the people of the United States.
Was there a concern? Was there an immediate
temporary pain for the people.
They don't understand. Have you seen Donald Trump's approval rating?
So
You're probably the only one.
It is painful.
But Donald Trump is doing an amazing job.
I actually think.
At the beginning, the promises were massive. There was talk of completely changing Iran's behavior, weakening its military capabilities, ending support for regional proxy groups, and permanently removing the nuclear threat. Now, the conversation has narrowed to simply securing some kind of agreement and hoping it lasts. When goals keep shrinking over time, it's often a sign that reality is proving far more difficult than the original promises suggested. There's also an important lesson from the last 2 decades of American foreign policy. Whether it was Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, or other interventions, military force can destroy targets, but achieving lasting political results is much harder. Bombs can damage infrastructure, but they don't automatically create stable agreements or change the long-term strategy of a government that has spent years preparing for pressure.